stand on Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen has not taken a vote on specific language. The Town Meeting Procedures Committee printed some language which is on your chairs tonight. That language is consistent with what the Board of Selectmen voted, but it is not. But we didn't actually take a vote on any specific language. I think it would be appropriate for the proponent of this article, Eric Helmuth, to explain the intent of and purpose of the motion.
Procedurally, we have to have that vote put before us. So Mr. O'Connor is going to do that, I think, on behalf of the committee.
On your chairs, in the second page of the Town Meeting Procedures Report, the Town Meeting Procedures Committee does hereby submit the following motion. Voted that the town hereby establish a committee not larger than 7 members to be appointed by the moderator for the purposes of studying electronic voting and to report back to and make recommendations to future town meetings. In the discussion before the Town Meeting Procedures Committee by Mr. Helmuth, we discussed several towns that have this procedure, accountability, and to Mr. Pelosi, I wish to tell you that your wish may be granted were we to do this, because one of the ideas was that 10 of 11 would have a vote. And if there was electronic voting machines, each of you would have a little device, you'd press the button, and it'd be town-wide known that you, in fact, voted. So I defer my time to Mr. Helmuth.
Do I have a second on that motion? Second. Thank you. Mr. Helmuth? Yeah, well, you're going to get your own time. Ooh, a clicker. Sir. No, we have to change the bylaw, and that'll start next year. Secretary, no, the Secretary of State or somebody has to approve it first. AG, Attorney General. Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Eric Helmuth, Precinct 12. The strength and beauty of representative town meeting is that it is representative democracy at a very local and humble and many would say pure level. And that's why I'm here. I think that's why most of us are here. Representative town meeting encourages dialogue between town meeting members and our neighbors about quality of life issues that matter in how we live our lives and how our children are brought up in this town. Right now in town meeting, and in many town meetings, most town meetings, most of the votes, in some cases all the votes, are essentially anonymous. We do a voice vote, whoever can yell the loudest. We do a standing vote that's more precise. But generally speaking, unless in the very rare occurrence that we have a roll call vote, our constituents don't necessarily know how we individually voted. I think there are probably a lot of reasons for the way things are now, and I think that doesn't mean anything's broken. But one of them could just be that a roll call takes 15 or 20 minutes. Within the last few years, technology has emerged that would make it much more practical to have a publicly recorded individual vote. And several towns in Massachusetts are, in fact, working to make that happen. I won't read the list to you, but you can see that the first 2 towns actually have initiated electronic voting in town meeting. Framingham's doing it right now. They're meeting at the same time as us. Brookline will expect to be doing it in the fall, having approved it by bylaw. These are representative town meetings. The town of Wayland is actually adopting this for open town meeting with 1,000 to 1,200 people. And these towns have studied this issue extensively for a number of years, and I think that we can benefit that as we consider this. So what is the opportunity? Quite simply, I think that it's an opportunity to provide more to the voters, more accountability, more transparency about the decisions that we make. Voters care about the decisions we make here in town meeting. And one of the benefits of using a technology like this is that at the end of town meeting, very promptly, a record of how each of us voted on key issues or whatever votes we decide to make public will be available for the town clerk in a PDF document to put up on the town website. That's exactly what happens in Chelmsford. That's what's happening in Framingham this term. And I think that's a good thing. I think that it has the opportunity to further engage voters with representatives, the people that are making decisions on their behalf. I think as a minor note, and that's really my intent in promoting this article, I think as a minor note, it has the potential to add some efficiency and precision to our process. We have an efficient voting process. A standing vote actually takes us about 2.5 minutes on average. Yes, I counted. Yes, I went back and watched some tape. There's only so many standing votes you want to watch, but that's about the time. There are a few small advantages. The moderator would not have to use a calculator because the 2/3 majority threshold would be instantly tabulated, and some things like that may shave a few seconds and make things more smooth. So that's the opportunity. I think it's also important to be aware of what it's not. As I said before, it's not fixing anything that's broken. Town meeting is fine. This is an opportunity to enhance it and evolve it as it is evolved before in other ways and improve it for the voters. Electronic voting is not automatically the same thing as a roll call vote. I will say this because the key is how you use it. If we wanted, we could adopt an electronic voting system and spend X amount of dollars and have a very fancy way of doing the same thing we just did, which is a counted vote, in a standing vote. Now, that probably doesn't make sense, and I think it is fair to say that apart from my intent that this system would facilitate a recorded individual public vote, that if we were to purchase and operate such a system, the voters of this town would rightly expect us to use it for that purpose and not simply to do the high-tech version of what we're already doing. But the distinction is important because it's not really about technology. I think that this is an opportunity to have a meaningful discussion, and I hope we have it tonight, about the opportunity to change how we vote and to change how we communicate how we vote to our constituents. So a little bit about how it would work, and I welcome your questions about this afterwards if you choose to come up. But the system that seems to be in predominant use now is built on top of an audience response system that many of you have used in seminars, uses a handheld remote, there's a secure receiver, a computer database with town meeting members in it that connects and displays your vote if you want up front. It's very flexible. There are a number of options about who operates that, and if you want, I can go into details about what different towns are choosing different configurations of staffing and all that. So I'll leave the details of that to your questions, but here's a picture of the remote that the Framingham voters, the town meeting members, are using this term. This is just one option. I'm not here to sell specific technology. I'm here to encourage you to consider and ask questions and debate about whether we want to study this method of voting. But a handset like this has the most security that you could, electronically speaking, that you could want. It sends your vote to the system. The system sends it back to the handset. It confirms whether you voted yes or no. And the handset transmits your vote securely to a receiver that then can display a public vote. And this is where, again, the configuration options are all over the map. Some towns choose to immediately display a tally of who voted and how, right up in the room, just like this. Some towns have decided to wait until the voting is closed, a 30-second window or whatever is closed until you see this. We could do this however we wanted to. We could not show the votes in town meeting at all and only show them afterwards. All that is up to us. But the technology is flexible enough to allow that to happen. And I think that flexibility really demonstrates what the issue really is about, and that is it's about how we vote. It's not really about a specific technology to do it. So a little bit about what it would cost. If we establish this study committee, as I hope that we do, we'll spend a year studying it and come back to town meeting next year with recommendations about whether we should do it and what are we learning from other towns, et cetera, what bylaw changes we might want to make if we did this. But in today's market, a system would cost about $12,000 a year if we do what Framingham did and rent the system and rent a person from the vendor to come operate it. Or it could cost around $30,000 if we wanted to buy our own system and run that ourselves. And again, I would stress that that's part of what this committee will study over the course of the next year. And as I mentioned before, we don't have to start from scratch. Framingham has studied this for 6 years. Brookline studied it for a couple of years. Chelmsford studied it for a long time. Wayland studied it for a really long time. And we as a committee, if we have this committee, we'll look at these questions for Arlington because we have unique needs. We have unique staffing. We have a unique way of doing things. So I'm not suggesting that we will just automatically follow the lead of another town. At the same time, they've looked into a lot of the questions that arise. Is this technology secure? What do we do about low-level incidental fraud? Will this create backups at the lines at the front of town meeting? What if someone loses a remote? The other towns have grappled with all this and more, and many of them have found satisfactory answers to this. What this committee would do would be to really delve into that and answer that for Arlington. So, who doesn't love another committee? Well, we certainly do. I just counted at least 55 boards, commissions, and committees on the town website. I've heard figures as high as 75 or 80. And I must say to the moderator, we just lost one tonight, so there's room. But seriously, it's very easy to vote for a committee. I would encourage you to think carefully about this and use the opportunity tonight to have a meaningful discussion with your other town meeting members about how we want to vote, how we want to perhaps improve accountability to voters. It doesn't make sense to have a hard-working committee, and this would be a very busy, hard-working committee, to do this if there's not much enthusiasm. So personally, I want to know, is this something you think you might want to do? Is this something you hate? Do you have questions and concerns? Let's have a good discussion. And if we go forward, the committee can have a sense for what you want its work to do over the next year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Howard. Got you, Susan.
Peter Howard, Precinct 10.
That's a true point of personal privilege. Please keep it down so she can hear. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Howard.
It's off?
You all right? There's a button a quarter of the way up the
Is that on now?
boom. Deanne's going to help you.
Oh, it's up there.
It is in fact on.
Oh, try the next one, Peter.
How's this? Oh, good. I was recently at a talk at MIT in a big meeting room where the recording was done by professionals. We were all handed little devices, something like the one that Eric showed, and some of them worked, and the one I had didn't. The votes were not nearly as important as the ones we do here. They were just sort of exploratory. So I hope the committee, if we vote for a committee, will consider that difficulty that we've had in keeping our traveling mics working in this hall, and consider what other towns have done to make their electronics work. This may be an idea before it's time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McCory? Q? Mr. Schlickman?
Paul Schlickman, Precinct 9. I rise in support of this committee. It's a good thing to do, to study it. It often does not pay, and it's often risky to be the first in the pool, but to be a first follower, to come in on the second wave, is often a good thing that allows others to do a shakedown and to give us valuable data that we can actually evaluate next year. But the one thing that I will state, we just voted to move our debate time from 10 minutes to 7 minutes. I don't think the amount of time we spend per speaker is necessarily what bogs us down. For me, the most frustrating thing is when we go through about 35 speakers and then we take a vote and it's unanimous. I would hope that if we are studying this, we could find a way to sort of take the temperature of the meeting on some of these votes so we don't end up going through 35 speakers en route to a unanimous vote, because we are convened to make decisions about the town, and as the former moderator always told us, we are not a debating society. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Brien. Kevin.
Andy O'Brien, Precinct 16. I rise up against this. I just see it as another small erosion of just going out and meeting people and being social. I think it takes away the senses of sound and sight. It takes away the ceremony, the pageantry, the tradition, the sense of community. There's no money needed to do what we do now. You know, probably just a small aside that, you know, think of the environmental impact, you know, the plastic, the small electronics that go into these devices. Also, I understand that we want to be accountable to our constituents, but many of us might come here to do our duty but might be shy and may not want to confront an angry constituent. I think what we have now works pretty good, and I suggest that we stay with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Phelps?
Move the question in all classes connected to it.
Okay, Judy Phelps, Precinct X, move the question. We've got to go through the ceremony. Ms. Phelps, motion to terminate debate. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor of termination of debate, please say yes. Yes. Opposed, say no. No. Let's try that again. All in favor of terminating debate, please say yes. Yes. Opposed, say no. No. In my opinion, debate is